What's up, everybody? This is Talkative Carl back again for another TV show spoiler review. And we just wrapped up JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Season 2, but just going to call it Stardust Crusaders. Personally, my favorite one because I love Jotaro Kujo. Awesome anime character. I think JoJo's Bizarre Adventure is like, well, it kind of flip-flops between my fourth and fifth favorite, tying with like Bleach. Because like, as many of you already know, I say multiple times, I even made an entire video about all my favorite animes ever watched growing up. Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh!, Naruto, Bleach, and JoJo's Bizarre Adventure is honestly my favorite animes of all time. Really, just like almost like in that order. And I was so ready to get back into JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Of course, check out my review for the first season of JoJo's Bizarre Adventures with like Phantom Blood and whoever the Pillar Man arc was, up on the channel, so you can check out my review for those. Personally, I like the Pillar Man arc, but the Phantom Blood thing, it's a nice setup to get you into the world of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. But I think in this season was, Stardust Crusaders and moving forward is where like it, really hits its stride. And so like, and I like the, it goes from like, different generations. So like the first season in Phantom Blood, you're focused on the first picture, well, not the first picture, but like Jonathan Joestar, like the son to, I think, George Joestar or something like that. I guess he would be like the bedrock, but Jonathan Joestar pretty much started like, it's kind of like if you ever play Castlevania or watch the TV show or just follow the the life story of or timeline of Castlevania. It's pretty much a similar vein where you got like the first person in a familiar line who has this arch enemy that's perpetually like the bane of their existence. So like Dracula, for example. Dracula, in this case, Dio Brando, who's the villain of well, at least in the first Phantom Blood and then in Stardust Crusader more so. But I think honestly, I think he's like the standout villain throughout JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. A standout villain for JoJo's Bizarre Adventures franchise as a whole. There's been other stuff like that psycho killer with the explosive bomb stand in the next season, which I'll get to eventually. I think he's a standout JoJo's Bizarre Adventure villain, but Dio is like top tier villain, like a fucking monster of a person. Just like an extreme petty dickishness. And the Joestar family, has been like, it's like Dio's like the boogeyman to them. It's like because you hear from Joseph Joestar that in him and Jotaro, like right, when they was young, they hear these ghost stories about like Dio and what he did to their family. And it's similar to how like Castlevanians where like they hunt monsters, but their biggest threat was always been like Dracula. Every time he's resurrected, the next generation who's alive are prepared just in case they have to deal with that threat, and usually they do. And it's just like a perpetual kind of cycle. Not as much here, but it gets that same vein. So now with Phantom Blood, we start with John Joestar, who had a tragic ending trying to defeat Dio. But as you see at the end of that arc, as I'm pretty sure I mentioned, you know, Dio still managed to kill Jonathan, but as they both were singing at the bottom of the ocean, uh, Dio cut off Jonathan's head and placed his own head on top of Jonathan's body. Did he cut off his own head, or he just sunk his head? He had to cut off his head. It wouldn't only make sense. Uh, uh, but because he was out in the middle of nowhere, and Jonathan's wife and uh, Joseph's mother, who was a baby at the time, got off on a lifeboat and sailed far away. So, Dio had no way to escape. So he pretty much like sunk at the bottom of the ocean for hundreds of years. And then you got like Joseph, who was a young man during like the 40s. It's like around the time of the whole Holocaust situation, World War II. And he's gone off his own little venture with not dealing with Dio, but the Pillar Men, who were extensively responsible for creating Dio in the first place by making these stone masks that turn people into vampires. Not traditional vampires, but vampires nonetheless. And pretty much kind of like wreak, kind of like chaos and havoc in a way. But I think like the Pillar Man kind of turns people into like vampires in order to like kind of feed off of them. I think, I don't know, or just make them their minions. I'm really interested in seeing if like how would the Pillar Man would deal with someone like Dio. And it's like Dio with his stand, because at the time they didn't have stands yet. Stands became like a staple in Stardust Crusaders and moving forward. And with Dio's ability with like, time stop. And this is full spoilers, by the way. And don't forget to leave a like, comment, subscribe. Links in the description. And smash that like button. But since stands wasn't like a thing yet, or at least established, by the writer yet, because, the writer the creator of the JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, he's known to forget certain things, or like, because you see that happen a couple times in Stardust Crusaders. He kind of found his stride, because he had this whole hum-on thing at the, when young Joseph Joestar's arc dealing with the Pillar Man, he had this hum-on thing that kind of pretty much certain humans has ability to generate kind of like sunlight powers or something like that. And you see like a nice little return to that in here at least once. Or no, not once, but at least a few times, but you forget about the hum-on part until he actually says it. Which I thought it was like a nice little callback, saying like he didn't totally forget, but he's known to forget certain things. And so after the defeat of the Pillar Man, Joseph married Susie Q, who was like his mother's assistant and everything like that. They had a daughter named Holly, who she grew up, married a jazz musician or something like that, who like a Japanese jazz musician or something like that. And then they lived in Japan, and Joseph had like a thing about like Japanese people, a little bit racist against the Japanese people, just a little bit, not like vehemently, but it's just like he didn't like the idea like she moved to Japan. I don't know, he just had like a grudge or something like that. I don't know. So she married a Japanese man and had Jotaro, and the kind of the movie, the season begins where the previous arc ends, where he's a little bit older, probably well within his like late 40s, early 50s, and arguably in his 50s. He uh, travels to Japan because he heard word that his daughter needs help dealing with her grandson. And you see at the beginning of this, you can see why he's like got himself put in a prison, not like a super max prison, but it's kind of like a holding cell because he beats up these group of punks. But despite how good of a fighter he knows he is, the way he got about doing that, it seems more than your average brawl. It seems like he's worried about, like, you know, he thinks he's being possessed by like an evil spirit, and he didn't want anybody, like, or even his mother, to be around him because he doesn't want to put anybody in danger. So somehow, you know, like the police officers there is like trying to get his mother and his grandfather to get this guy out of the cells because he wouldn't leave. So you see, you know, JoJo, you know, getting like pop and a radio and magazines, and it's like they don't know how he got that stuff in there in the first place. And all the other inmate, at least, you know, people in holding with him are freaking the heck out because he just getting random stuff and nobody knows how he's doing it. And it turns out he has a stand, which is like a spiritually generated kind of like embodiment of his willpower kind of situation. And these stands, at first, they kind of base off like the tarot cards, but from the next season moving forward, well, they have hints in this too, but the next season moving forward more heavily, which I think is kind of cool and nice little gimmick, where they have certain characters named after musicians, either musicians or actors, and a lot of musicians' songs. Like in the next season, I think it was the villain who has a stand with like a move called Another One Bites the Dust, and it's fun. And Dio Brando's named after like I forgot like what rock music. I'm pretty sure it was crap, I'm blanking on his doggone name. Dang, I'm blanking on. I have his image in my mind of his face, but it's gonna bug the crap out of me. Let me hold up. Steven Tyler. I think it was Steven Tyler who has some kind of thing with Dio. But I could be wrong because Brando comes after like Marlon Brando from the the actor. Is named after the heavy metal band. I'm just, looking up because I'm blanking because it's gonna bug the heck out of me. And the creation of JoJo's Bizarre Adventures, named Araki. God, what is that? It's not giving me right here. It's supposed to be. I'm not getting it. But you know what I'm talking about. I think God Dio or something like that. I think that's the heavy metal band. Anyway, I'm sorry. I just had to figure that out. It was just like, rolling in my mind because I'm not like a heavy metal band fan, but I know that it's always like a staple thing where you got like stands and their creators named after musicians or bands or musical artists, and there was like a little short guy in this Stardust Crusaders who has like ability to make an illusion of a maze or whatever, and he like was stuck in his wall until he got killed. And it was really really quick, but it's like they I think the narrator said his name was Billie Jean, so you can see where the things come into play. So I always loved that. That was so of the stands and with the themes with the musicians and the artists and songs and like action stars and what have you. It's like, well, not even just action stars, but it's just like movie stars. I think all that was so doggone creative. That was like a good theme, and like I'm glad it was like a mainstay of the show. Anyway, let's go on with the bulk of like the story. Now, Joseph gets his friend Muhammad Avdol, who has a stand called Magician's Red. Now, like I said, the bulk of the stands here is just like based off like certain tarot cards and like Egyptian gods like Osiris and like Thoth and stuff like that. But after Jotaro realized, because only stand users are able to see other stands, normal people cannot. And the reason how like stands came to play, you find out in like I think the next season. I'm pretty sure the next season, where there's like this special arrow, which I'm assuming it has something to do with the Pillar Man. I can't. Once we get to that, it'll be more clear because I'm blanking on it. But this is like this magic arrow. I think the next season after that, not next season, but the season after that. But this is like magic arrow, a golden magic arrow that once you pierce somebody, I guess either depending on the genetic makeup, it's kind of like a lottery or a 50-50 chance, I should say, where like that person might be able to generate a stand of their own. So I think that's how Dio used to create more stand users for his followers. But then again, well, no, because I think that it could explain how like well, it's hard to say because I could easily explain that, because since Dio took over Jonathan's body, they share a connection. They got this like kind of like spider sense about Dio and vice versa. Like they feel each other's presence. They like intrinsically connected now. And this could have this end up resulting in like Holly's sickness, where since she technically understands, but it hasn't like she hasn't cultivated it to be like an aggressive type of thing, and like fully active aggressive type of standard you use in like combat or whatever like that. She's too like, I wouldn't say meek, but it's kind of like a very sweet person. So she's not geared towards violence. So it's kind of like the stand kind of once manifests, it kind of works against her because Dio's stand creation resulted in Joseph and Jotaro manifesting their stands by osmosis, I guess. But the reason I'm struggling to see, like, because yes, the arrow is the bulk of the reason why they're stand users, but sometimes you come across people that has no kind of association with this arrow, or like the Joestars or Dio, whatever like that. There's a few, and they just have like stands. Just some people just born with, it's kind of like have like mutant powers. It's like when we get to a certain age, you just, well, it's not even that. In the next season, there's literally a baby who has like a stand ability to make, I believe it's a little girl, herself invisible. So it's just, and then there's animals who have stands as well, and it's just hard to gauge, how or when would something manifest, but it just happens sometimes. So they got Johto to come out of the prison cell, and they informed him about like Dio, who somehow came back. Well, not somehow. Joseph eventually figured out how he made his return, because some kind of like, not grave robbers, but kind of like, well, they are like those treasure seekers kind of people found this casket with Dio's name on the front below the water, thinking it's filled with treasure or something. They open it, and just right when the sun was going down, Dio rose up and killed everybody on board, and decided to make a home in Egypt, like his base of operations. And then through, I guess, like it's like at least a few months, building pretty much a legion of followers. And since then, like, Johto, not thinking like it's gonna be his fight or whatever like that, he come across Kakuin, who was mind controlled by Dio, using kind of like a flesh bud of Dio's own cells to create this, like, mind control, where he tries to assassinate Jojo. Jojo got, like, the jump on him, and then bring him back to his home where Joseph is, just to question him. They found the bud, they destroyed it, and you learn about Star Platinum. It's like the most powerful, one of the most powerful stands out there, with his strength, speed, and precision. It's so doggone good that even his eyesight, where he's like, can super hyper focus, like telescopic, almost like Superman's telescopic vision, where you can see so far, and then he can even like catch a bullet. Literally, like, you see Joseph, take one of the policeman's gun, fired it, and then just on instinct, the Star Platinum catches the bullet just inches away from Jotaro's skull. It was just like that level of speed. It's even faster than that, but you get to see my point. And it's, Star Platinum is just fucking awesome. And it's like, you just love when he does those multiple punches, like, and it's like, I was like, God, I love that. It's just like, it gets you so hyped. It's just like, just beat the fuck out of somebody. It's so good. Next, after, Kakuin is revived, they figure out that, because Joseph's stand, his hermit purple, there's like kind of like purple vines that come out of his hands, he can use to either, like, generate messages through certain electronics like TVs or cameras. And he gets only this one image at first with Dio in silhouette, but it's nothing in the background. It's hard to, like, gauge, where he could be, so they can ascertain like a proper location to go stop him. But thanks to Star Platinum's like kind of like, skill set with like his, precision eyes, he spots through the shadow, mind you, a single fly. And Star Platinum draws the image of the exact fly, because different species of flies, onto a piece of paper. Avdol, went through the library and found out that it's a particular fly that's only found in Egypt. So that's where they needed to go. Then Holly fell ill, knowing, since Dio's, stand manifested, resulting in any Joestar bloodlines generating their own stands, by osmosis. But since Holly's, is a very, not reserved, but it's kind of just a very sweet, not aggressive kind of person, her stand kind of which is also kind of like plant vines, but it's kind of like, it's very lewd scenes with her with these vines, insinuating like how it's killing her instead of helping her, because she's not like an aggressive kind of like an attacker kind of stand user. She is like, you see like certain loose scenes where it's like those vines kind of wrap her up while she's butt ass naked, and it's kind of very bondage type of stuff, and despite JoJo's attitude, because he's like, of course he's like a high schooler, and he's got like all this damn attitude, and he's cool as hell just by just being fucking cool. He says certain things it's like wouldn't play well obviously today, or at least in any decade. The way he talks with his mother, and she's like, okay, and it's like, it's like, shut up, you dumb bitch, and like, what the fuck? And it's like, dude, it's a, I mean, it'd be one thing if like, like you dealing with like a parent who is like a total fucking bitch, or like this like a mean bastard kind of like Dio's parent, or at least his father. It makes sense to talk like that to him because, he was like a ripe old bastard. But something like Sweet, he just got this fucking attitude. It's like, but he still loves her. He still is her mother. And he's just like, but as soon as she felt ill, it's like, okay, we need to kill Dio because it's the only way to stop these. Because we got like 45, I think like 50, 45 or 50. I'm pretty sure it's 50 days. Because he's seen this kind of thing before, Joseph, where they get some kind of like poison by Dio, and like, since even though they're stand users and they can already see something like this happen to one of their own, thanks to Dio, but nobody else can, because they're just normal humans. They think is like just some mysterious coma or something like that. And they don't have any, way of, proper medicine to get them out of it. But stand users can see like what's killing them, but even they can't do anything about it. The only thing they know what to do is kill the person who is responsible for it to get them out of it. Because after 50 days, that person's dead. So, but during the meantime, they just get sicker and sicker until then. So they have 50 days to get to, from Japan to Egypt to stop Dio, and along the way, they find this guy named Polarev, who's a Frenchman who has this like very tall hair, and funny enough, he was supposed to be named Jay Guile, but because of the Street Fighter character, who kind of like roughly similar kind of hair, they decided to go with Polarev instead. But I think in the Japanese they call him Jay Guile, I think. But he has a grudge against Dio. Well, at least this follower of Dio, who has this distinct feature. It's kind of like a serial killer in a way, who has this distinct feature where he has two right hands. And that's how, because like his younger sister and her friend were attacked one day by this guy with two right hands. The friend managed to get away in order to tell what happened, but unfortunately, a polar sister died, by the hands of this monster, and so he comes along the way on their travels to, try to stop Dio, but he wants to make sure he by following them, gets to this serial killer who's working for Dio, so he can kill him and avenge his sister. So at first they travel by plane, which makes sense. The quickest way is by plane. But along the way, because like stand users are normally like kind of like attracted to each other in like some kind of by force in a way, like some supernatural kind of level, kind of like just naturally bump into each other. But Dio cultivated so many followers, mostly like either terrorists or serial killers or just kind of like just extremists who believe in Dio's cause and his awesome power and beauty and whatever. So they got a lot to deal with. There's hardly any kind of rest. They hardly get any rest along the way. But at first, they come across this terrorist who, prior to Dio, was known to be a hired, kind of a terrorist, but he's known to be like kind of like a hired gun where he caused horrific accidents, planes, trains, and buildings and all this other stuff, and nobody knew like how it's done. He has a stand, almost like this big beetle thing, where not only he kills a person, he takes their tongues. So he's technically a freaking serial killer. Usually serial killers take trophies, and so they own this plane, and that fucking stand user is like an old man. He ends up killing the pilot and the co-pilot and like a few passengers. And so after they stop him and manage to get the plane landed, to get everybody rescued, then they decide, okay, we cannot take any kind of like public transit at this point because we're gonna be putting a lot of people in danger. So we're gonna have to like travel small and take going to have to go the long way. So they take things like by boat and like personal cars and and later camels and stuff like that, just to get to stop by stop to minimize any potential kind of danger to any instance. They take this boat ride, and Joseph kind of vets the captain and captain and crew, but somehow it made no sense because like the supposed captain is also like a stand user and a follower of Dio, and it's like Joseph's like, I vetted everybody, including again, like obviously you didn't, because you obviously don't know who the original captain was, because the guy killed the supposed captain and took his place. So it's like that should have been your first clue, like who the hell is this guy? That's not the guy I checked out. But this guy who has like this water stand, and they bump into this little girl who's like apparently running away from home, but you think she's like trying to go to this other. She goes all the way up to different points of the country, these other places, in certain areas of the world along with them, on the way to like it's like I think I forgot where they stopped at, but eventually they send her back to Japan, because like how the hell this girl go so far without anybody's like clearly they're looking for her, but it's like I don't know where her home, like she was kind of like superfluous, just to be thrown in here, but she ultimately doesn't matter. But they end up stopping this captain or fake captain and his stand, and they come across this abandoned boat who turns out to be just a giant stand, who is being controlled by this ape who's in this kind of cage. And they caught them by surprise. They didn't know animals can be stand users, let alone generate something so big that's actually visible to the human eye. So they stopped the ape, and then they eventually, travel to like certain points where they meet these wacky kind of stand users, but it's like a few of them like I love more so than the others. I have a few of my favorites, but there's this there's two brothers, Mandala and Zenyatta, who are like one has like a book. The little brother has like a book, Toph, who is a stand that can generate kind of like predictions of the future, and it's like a storybook thing. And Zenyatta, the older brother, has a stand power to kind of like morph his face, kind of like Clayface, where he can just morph his face into whomever he wants to look like. And this was my favorite part because, they're like trying to, cause these predictions to occur, where it's like, oh, Jotaro will be exploded in a million pieces by this bomb made out of orange, who thinks it's an orange. And because while like the older brother's trying to plant the bomb, Joseph and Polarev thinking like, oh, who's like somebody's rummaging through their car. And it's like, oh, I'm gonna get busted. So he turns his face to Jotaro, to avoid being caught. So he has to stay with them in the ride, and he's worried about the bomb. And it's like, because according to his little brother, since the story gonna get confused, the prediction gonna get confused because you got two faces of Jotaro, and it's like it's gonna go directly to his brother because he's with the bomb, so he has to like get out there. And along the way, he's freaking the hell out. It's like, oh God, I gotta get the heck out of here. And like Joseph and Polarev is like, seems like they're like suspicious, but then again they kind of like F with him because they don't really know. But it's like, hey, and Polarev's like, hey, do that trick you showed me. Trick? And it's like, showing like this trick where you can take a lick cigarette and flip it over inside the mouth without putting it out or burning yourself. And like, now do it with 5. Like 5. It's like, and then it's like, and he kind of root for the guy to see if he can actually pull it off. Like, come on, you could do this. Don't get busted. And it's like he managed to pull it off and put the all 5 lit cigarettes in his mouth, hold it there, and it's like, yes, I did it. Take that, children. And then Polarev, out of no freaking reason, just like, here, now do the other trick where you drink this soda without putting like, what the fuck? It's like, what the fuck? It was so doggone funny. Oh my God. He just fucking loses it. Yeah, it was great. The whole entire sequence is fucking great. It's like he just like pretends he has like an upset stomach. They stop to so he can get out, and he trying to runs behind the rock, and it's like, okay, I'm going to remove the illusion. So like I don't. So the prediction. Oh my God, I'm crying. The prediction will go right to Jotaro by proxy, but he managed to step on the explosive by mistake before he removed the illusion. So he gets hurt. He didn't die, but he got hurt, and he got sent to the hospital. So he's kind of out of commission. But that entire thing was just so damn funny. Then you deal with like, eventually, Polarev managed to find the serial killer, and it turns out to be like the son of this old hag that's like kind of sort of like the right hand woman of Dio, who also had like 2 right hands, and like she's like a crazy old bag. And after Polarev, who has dealt with that serial killer, who has like a stand called the Hangman, who can travel between reflections at light speed, and with like with thanks to Kakawin, they know like he has a split. He can even travel through reflections on eyes. So since you got like these crowd around them, it's like, and he bounced between eyeballs to like do like a slash behind them while they are not looking. And so they had like Polnareff has his idea. Okay, I mean like Kakawin has his idea. Okay, I'm gonna flip this coin, and like while everybody's eyesight is like geared towards this coin that's flipping in the air, that Stan has no choice but to travel to that direction, and because Polaris Stan, the chariot, who's like almost like a knight with like a rapier, can easily get it, but he has to know where the direction he's coming from in order to finally make a cut. So since he only got one direction to go to, he slashed that sucker right in half and killed that stand user finally, who looks like that monster from the Goonies, almost. And she's freaking out, and so they feel like, oh, I can finally get my revenge on Polnareff for killing my son. And she has like a stand ability to like not zombies, but pretty much like walking ghouls after already have like dead body, since they're already dead. And it's a little like misty kind of like graveyard town, and you also deal with this like guy named Whole Horse, who normally is partnered with somebody, but he has like a stand called the Emperor, who got like just like this big pistol that shoots bullets that he can manipulate into almost any direction. And which, now I'm thinking about it, there's like I think not next season, it's the next season after, the 4th season of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. In Italy, there's this like one of the main characters has a kind of like a similar stand, but with bullets instead of like a gun, where he has like he has these stand bullets where he just have to fire them, and they can they talk, and they just carry on themselves, like with they got their own intelligence and travel. They got a certain range. A lot of these stands got like a certain range of between them. Someone like Jotaro, who had the more powerful the stand is, the shorter the range. Can be up to like 10 millimeters or something like that. But depending on how weak the stand is, the farther it can travel. So like someone like someone who uses like a gun, obviously their stand can pretty much travel a little bit farther than your average stand uses, like Polnareff or Jotaro. But Whole Horse is pretty funny himself, and he's just like a cowboy. Then he eventually, after Hangman gets at least I'm just calling Hangman, I can't remember like the stand user's name, but once he's dead, he has to like partner up with Mandala, whose brother is out of commission, so they need a partner to finish the job. And that is pretty funny of itself, where it's like God, this is like just Whole Horse, Zenyatta, and Mandala is just like the funniest characters in this dog as at least like villains. It's so freaking funny. Now these two are paired up, and like of course Mandala is so like a timid kid without his brother backing him up. So Whole Horse had to tie this kid up, stick him in like a freaking suitcase along the plane ride, from Egypt to wherever Jotaro and his group is. And like as soon as he pull him out the suitcase inside the car at the taxi, and like he's telling, like he's taking off the gag, and he's telling like the kid, like, here, we're like it or not, we're working together. We need to stop these guys for Lord Dio. And then Mandala just like, because he didn't know he was air sick or whatever, Zenyatta, instead of screaming, he just like and just puked all over. And like he's just like and this Whole Horse just got this blank stare, like, fuck me. But and like of course Whole Horse doesn't believe in the whole prediction stuff until he has to see for himself, where he's like you see like in the picture book that this rich woman will hand Whole Horse her some jewels as thanks for kicking her in the neck, and Whole Horse doesn't understand, like, why the fuck would I kick somebody in the neck for no reason, let alone a beautiful woman, because he's like a lover, of all women, kind of blah blah blah. And it's like, trust in your predictions, is never wrong. Like, yeah, but except for the fact that your brother, got blown up. Well, my brother got blown up because he took the face of Jotaro. So, the prediction had to go to him because he was in proximity of the bomb. But if he didn't do that, then it had to go to Jotaro at some point. You just trust in the prediction. And so he sees the woman walk by him with her bodyguard, and he just let her walk by. Cause like, I'm not ticking it. So it's like, no, now what? Then he sees this big scorpion behind her, and he just runs and kicks her in the neck. And then as thanks, she hands him like some jewels as payment for avoiding potentially death. And it's like, it kind of blew Horse's mind. Okay, I trust and believe in this prediction now. So they eventually see the Jotaro's gang, and like the next prediction is like, okay, you gotta pay off, you gotta bribe these engineers who's working on this pipe, that kind of trails off to this other side of the corner where if he fires his bullets through the pipe, it'll travel and hit Jotaro right through the face. And you gotta do it by noon, and it was like a few minutes to noon. So you see they're scrambling, trying to convince these workers, these I guess construction workers or whatever, to like open up a pipe so he can fire his gun inside. And it's like you gotta bribe the guys. The prediction says you gotta bribe them. It's like he left his wallet at the hotel. It's like he's jumping around like, give me whatever cash you have in your wallet, like Mandala. He's carrying like, oh, I only got a couple of chains, and it's like, and he's hopping around, like, come on, give me and it's like he drops the coins everywhere. The construction workers scramble up to pick up the coins, and then some old lady come out of nowhere and trying to bring drinks to these construction workers, and they stop from picking up the coins, like, oh, thanks. It's like, come on, it's good. And then he's threatening, like, if you don't open this pipe right now, I will fucking kill you. okay, God. And they open the pipe, and he's like, take that, Jotaro. Bang, 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 bang. And it's like, of course, it misses. And you don't understand. They did it at the exact time as, like, he was told. And he's, they don't understand. And then they realize Whole Horse's watch is, a few minutes fast, and they missed their marker because they thinking like, oh, we're catching on time, but they had more than enough time. But it was like the whole entire situation is funny, and of course, almost for some reason like a boomerang, the bullets who firing off randomly in the air coming after they missed Jotaro come right back and hits Whole Horse, taking him out of commission. He's not dead, but he's incapacitated. He's no longer effective on the field anymore. And Mandala decides, like, okay, I'm just gonna find my brother. We're gonna live our life in peace, kind of thing. So he's no longer a threat. But that entire, that, and like when it comes to Mandala and like Whole Horse and like Mandala's brother, that entire thing is like, their sequences are so funny. It's almost like nearly my favorite, like at least third of my favorite scenes in this as a whole, like my third favorite scenes behind like the Darby stuff, and then the end dealing with Dio. I think the Darby stuff is like my second favorite scenes out of the entire series. There's brothers Darby. There's the older brother Darby they come across, who honestly they think it was like one of the biggest threats they ever had to face, because he's like a gambler and he bets. It's almost kind of like Yu-Gi-Oh in a way, with like the shadow realm situation. Like, when you enter a shadow game, you pretty much, betting your soul, and the loser's soul will go to the shadow realms. So it's like, in this case, the brother decides to turn their souls into poker chips. So, like he said, he doesn't have to be cards. You can bet anything. He bet Polarev that, and this dude's like a fucking big cheat. It's kind of like, Bandit Keith in a way, where he throws 2 pieces of fish in a row and bet that stray cat will go to the one on the left, and Polarev bets he'll go to the one on the right first. And the cat goes to the one on the left, not knowing that the cat belongs to Darby anyway, so of course he'll go to the one that Darby will throw it. And like and this upsets the gang. It's like, you fucking cheat, you manipulate the situation. And it's like, it's like, I don't know what you expect from me. It's like, like, you didn't ask. It wasn't my cat. Why would I have to disclose that information? So Polar's soul gets taken. Joseph bet that he fills up this glass of liquor nearly to to the edge, and like him and Darby will take turns putting coins into this thing, and the first one who tips the who has the water drip over first loses, and so he can get his Polaroid soul back. But and then you realize like this dude's like a almost like another serial killer. He's got like this whole book, like a big phone book, or big dictionary full of poker chip souls he collected over the years. And so he takes the bet, with Joseph's soul on the line, and it's like, Joseph thinking he's, got the one up on this guy. And here's the funny thing. Of course, depending on who's the main character, they, get all the, not like Mary Sue powers, but it's kind of like if they're not the main character, they have more, like at least a little bit more of a chance to get in a situation where they will lose a battle. Like Joseph, in this case, who used to be the main character, who got, had the kind of like plot armor, a little bit more plot armor in his previous arc. Now he has more like threatening, situations to get through, because Jotaro was the main star in this one. Main star. So he's thinking like, okay, I got the one up on this guy. Because as we know, Joseph is pretty much like a manipulator himself. He figured like, okay, I forgot what he did. He pretty much manipulated a situation where it's like, I feel like I kind of filtered to a point where like, no matter what, whose turn it was, I made sure I'm the one who can, who got like, or at least manipulated a situation where Darby will be the one who tips the water over, the liquor over first. And while Darby was, first inspecting the glass just to make sure he didn't manipulate it, he snuck like a piece of chocolate or some, gram of chocolate, where it's not too much, but enough where it's like, it kind of like leans slightly, where it's like, by the time it melts, the favor will be in his court instead of Joseph. And because of that, Joseph loses soul. He turns into poker chips. Then now it's down to, Jotaro, who has to play poker with this guy. And of course, he breaks Darby's finger when we realize he was, because this is like a legal move. I learned this last year before I went to my trip to Vegas, where when somebody plays poker, there's this little move where it's extremely illegal. You get, in Vegas, I'm pretty sure you get arrested or banned from casinos or whatever, kind of like, it's like, because there's any number of things that can happen to you for pulling this move, because it's like very illegal. Where you deal in cards, if you're trying to deal, it's a very slick move if you're not keeping an eye on it. But if you're caught dealing, like, instead of the card on the top and you try to slide the next card bottom, the second card below it, that is illegal, because you're pretty much telegraphing that you're trying to make sure you get the best hand and they get the worst hand instead of leaving it to chance. And Jotaro caught that thanks to Star Platinum's precision eyes. He breaks Darby's fingers for it, and Darby's like, it's fine, I got busted, so I don't call that a point against me on that one. So they decided, okay, we're gonna, Jotaro points to a kid that's playing ball, like a soccer ball, a few feet away from like this little bar they're in, and like this, they bring the kid in to, be the one to deal the cards to make sure there's like a neutral party. But little that they know, Darby pretty much runs this kind of bar, saying anybody, like the bartender, even this kid, and anybody, like at least majority of people in here. So that way, no matter what, Darby still feels like he has the upper hand. And like the kid's dealing cards, and he's making sure that you manipulate it in a way to make sure that Jotaro still has like the worst hand. And it's like a slick move, like a slick bluffing move. And the first time I saw it, I thought it was freaking like amazing. Blew my mind. Where Jotaro, it almost reminds me of like Duelist Kingdom, where Yugi goes up against Maximilian Pegasus and does a mind shuffle where like Yama Yugi doesn't know what little Yugi played. It's blank to his mind, so that way Pegasus can't read it. Jotaro kind of pulls the same stunt to where like he just decided, I want the hand I'm getting, I'm not even gonna look at it. It's like, I'm gonna bet Kakawing's soul, I'm gonna bet my soul, I'm gonna bet Abdal's soul, I'm gonna bet my mother's soul. And it's like, he's not even looking, like, you mean to Darby's like, you mean to tell me he's not gonna even take a glance at your cards to make sure? It's like, I don't need to. My hand's good. And it's like, and then the kid's freaking the heck out, and he's like, on this heavy ass breathing. It's like, you see this a few times. It's kind of funny. It's like, and like he's looking at Darby's, like, and Darby's in the monologue. It's like, don't look at me, kid. I'm thinking like they're gonna pick up you're working with me. Stop looking at me. It's like, and they all believe like, and then you hear Abdul doing. It's like you're in a fucking Lamaze class or something. And it's like, and the tense is building up, and it's like you've been Abdul's freaking out, like, you've been everybody's soul. You're not even gonna look at your hands and make sure, like, I don't need to, like, my hands are good. As like, and then and he causing Darby to second guess himself and lose his cool, and it's per his rules, if anybody's like pretty much, to borrow from Star Wars, lost the will to live, or in this case, lost the will to play, you automatically lose. So he pretty much forfeited the whole entire game and caused all the souls he collected to escape and go back to their bodies. And it's like, and then they realize, his hands were completely shit. And so he just had to bluff this guy because he knows there's no way he's gonna, play fairly. There was no way to expect that. So it's like he had to outplay him. And it was pretty fun move. Then you got like the younger brother Darby, who's more, he liked games as well, but instead of gambling, he's like video games. And his souls, instead of poker chips, he makes them into puppets, which is pretty more sick than his own older brother. And so he challenges Cockawing to there's like, Cockawing picked the game. It's like this kind of like a race game that kind of looks like Hot Wheels in a way. He lost, his soul got turned into a puppet. Then like, Jotaro challenged him to a baseball game, baseball video game. And so at first, Jotaro's pretty much like second out Darby by like causing all these like rookie mistakes, like swinging the bat before like he like the ball gets to him, or even long after the ball was a strike, and you just keep swinging. Just pretty much like, no, I think I gotta handle this now. I was like, now? Like, what the heck are you talking about? It's like, you've been playing like shit, like for no doggone reason. And then he started like just knocking. It's like Mario Super Slug. He's kind of like just knocking it out of the park and just beating, this dude at his own game, literally. And it's like, as soon as like Darby trying to throw all these kind of fastballs and curveballs and stuff like that, and it's like, and like Jotaro keeps hitting it no matter what he does, and it's like, how's he doing this? Not realizing Joseph, because his stand is able to like read people too, in a way. It's like to tell whether or not, pretty much asking like yes or no questions, and their soul cannot lie to him, and it's like, are you cheating? And it's like, and Jotaro's soul like, yes. It's a meme too. You can see like any Jotaro meme, you see this one in particular. It's like all this like yes. Like it's like you ask him like are you doing this? No. Like, are you doing this? Yes. Like, you're not making any fucking sense. And it's like, and then after he loses, he kind of realized it was Joseph using his Hermit Purple to manipulate certain controls when Jotaro's not, dealing with his stake in the game. And it's like manipulate the situation, because he can manipulate, electronics with his Hermit Purple. He managed to be able to like maneuver in a way to beat Darby at his own game. So that part was cool. But throughout these travels, he meets certain characters, and it's just like some are more sadistic than others, and some more funnier than others. But those are just pretty much my favorite stand users that like I've seen in the entire this section of the series, and it was so much fun. And then of course you come across like the lovers who got like this little not beetle, but kind of this bug-like thing where you can get into the head of somebody, and kind of like pretty much emit like some kind of symbiosis, where it's like this guy who ends up killing the mother of that hangman user, and figure like Lord Dio doesn't suffer any fools kind of situation, and just kills it right off the bat. And then he decides, okay, I'm going to put my stand inside of Joseph's mind, and if any harm comes to me, it comes back twice as hard to your own grandfather. So nobody can lay a hand on me. So he pretty much like humiliates Jotaro the whole time, beat him up, smacks him around and stuff like that. And Jotaro's like, okay, you just racking up more on your tab. And since they figure out like they beat Kakawin and Polarev beat the stand, Jotaro pretty much like beats the hell out of this guy with some auras and knocks him through a building, and he writes him like a receipt, like here's a receipt, you can keep the freaking change. And then you get this awesome Jotaro music, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure music, like and just walks up really cool in the sunset with his school jacket flowing in the wind like a cape and stuff, and just like that whole part is just doggone fun. But not to carry on, it's like a 47 episode in this season arc, and of course they suffered some losses on their side too. Eventually, well, you think Whole Horse killed Avdol at one point, but he just like got injured but thought he was dead just to recover, but he died for him and Iggy, this dog that they eventually bring on to help with, I guess I don't know why they needed like the dog for like, but I guess the dog came in handy in a couple of instances. But one in particular, I think it was highly useful because it's this blind man in the desert who also worked for Dio, who has this stand, who pretty much like it's like a. It's kind of like if you ever watched the movie Tremors, they these monsters that travel by sound in the desert and kill people. He pretty much had the same thing, but with this, he has it with water, where it can travel and hunt and kill you just by him listening to certain movements. And he ended up killing like these pilots that brought Iggy and some food and water for the gang from the Speedwagon Foundation. And they end up, the stand ended up pulling one of the helicopter pilots' heads right off and sucked it right into this water canteen where it came from. It was graphic as hell. But thanks to Iggy, who can sniff out this guy, and Jotaro just tossing that fucking, I don't know what kind of dog it is, but it's like, tossing that puppy right, with Star Puppy, just like tossing that sucker right at, and since he didn't expect him to toss a dog at him, he caught him by complete surprise and knocks him out. And Iggy just like to fart in people's face and eat their hair for some doggone reason. And like he's totally by surprise. And now Jojo, managed to catch up on him. And you see this a few times with a few of these followers because they're like extreme fanatics. If you ever watch my watch along of Deadliest War, the one I did earlier this month with North Korea versus the U.S. Army Rangers, and they discuss about like extremism from the North Koreans, where they willingly submit themselves to their own execution for efficiency's sake. This is kind of similar to where like you can tell, like, because Dio is based off a lot of like serial killers, him and like another villain in the next season, to where it's like they follow Dio to the extreme, to where like a few characters, like this blind guy, for instance, uses his own stand to, like pretty much almost like a bullet just to snap, just kill himself right in front of Jotaro, so he won't be questioned. And you see like another follower who like works right alongside Dio in his headquarters, to where he's like, just to prove himself, uses his own stand to cut his own head off, and Dio revives him. But it was like their loyalty to this dude is fucking insane. And it's like, as Avdol mentioned before earlier in the season, how like he bumped into Dio one day, and that's how he ended up like finding Joseph after experiencing just the mere presence of this man, to where it's like, his blood ran cold, and it's like he knew. And like when they finally catch up to Dio, thinking like he's in his little chamber room, and it's like they can't see him, but he's hiding in Saddle, and they just jump out the fucking building, like, because they mentioned like he's like, I feel like a extreme presence, like, almost like they use a lot of similes here, where it's like, I'm going to use one just for an example. It's kind of like your hair standing on end when you feel like something like somebody's watching you, and it's like you kind of feel like if you don't get the fuck out, you're going to fucking die, and you don't know what it is, but you just got to just book it. And it's pretty much like this, similar situation where it's like they had to just, Aldol, when he, first ran to Dio prior to this adventure, he just like, he didn't even bother to waste time fighting. He knew it was going to be, because he heard stories of Dio, and when he came across him just by happenstance one day, he booked it. He ran. He because he knew his homeland better than Dio did, he managed to scurry through kind of like a maze, scurried through certain parts of the alleyways, and eventually lost them. But he knew he was going to fucking die if he stays. And it's like, this dude's, just maddening. But after a long trip, it took it's like the days are almost up for Holly's sake. So they literally had like a few days left before Holly dies. So they finally make it to Egypt, despite their setbacks with all these stand users. After dealing with like the second Darby brother, the guy who cuts off his own head, he has this like this stand who can pretty much eat himself and like kind of like has like a body like acid, and he kills Avdol after saving Polnareff and Iggy from being consumed. And then it was down to Polnareff and Iggy to take down this guy, and then Iggy dying saving Polnareff, and Polnareff managed to kill this guy finally. So now it's down to Polnareff, Kakyoin, Joseph, and Jotaro. And that's when they eventually come across his chambers. He jumps out the window. And like, of course, they don't have no clue what Dio Stand is and how it works, because everybody they try to question, they end up killing themselves. So, just to keep their secret. But thanks to Kakyoin, who ended up giving his life trying to find out the power of his stand, the world, his stand is called the world, and it can stop time for like at least at that moment 5 seconds. He ends up, you think he killed Joseph, but thanks to Jotaro, he managed to because Dio's stand and Jotaro's stand pretty much similar, and eventually while battling, Joseph managed to practice, while battling on the fly to pretty much cultivate the same special move of stopping time. In the next season, when he has like a little cameos in the next few seasons, you see Jotaro kind of mastered the time stop to where it's like he can stop it for at least 10 seconds eventually. But eventually, throughout this long 3-episode battle between him and Dio, he finally tricked Dio into using up his, because Dio can pretty much almost spam his time stopping ability, but there's like a brief period where it's like, after it's used up, he has like a little time to utilize his own time stop, because he does that roller move, like roller, useless. Or in the Japanese, like, and it's like, and just slamming this steamroller, which, as much as I hate like Jump Force, there's certain moves that I do appreciate. It's just more nostalgia reasons, but they have Dio using the roller move, the roller move, or steamroller move, and does that thing. I gotta admit, I do like that, but I'm not gonna hash out why I hate that fucking game. It's one of the worst games I ever touched. But despite that, Jotaro managed to make Dio use up his time stop move and make sure that he had time to spring his time stop move on him, and managed to land the lethal blow, killing Dio. And then eventually, wherever body parts is left, he utilized to do a blood transfusion towards Joseph after Dio tried to, took some of his blood to revitalize him after the previous battle with Jotaro. After Jotaro kind of broke his legs. But they finally stopped Dio, and Holly's better. You get to see Suzy Q, here, towards the tail end of the season, looking after Holly, and you can see where of course you've seen Suzy Q in the Pillar Man arc and how she reacts. So of course Holly acts nearly the same thing. I don't know who Jotaro's father is. You never see him, but it's like he didn't pick up anything after his own mother. So you gotta see, like, okay, how does his father act? His father act similar to, his coolest, cool behavior kind of thing. But so despite their loss with like Iggy, Avdol, and Kakyoin, Jojo, Joseph, and Polarev say their goodbyes. Polarev heads off back to France. Jotaro and Joseph head back to Japan to reunite with Holly and Suzuki, and the season ends. And honestly, this entire series is so good. It's my favorite part of JoJo's Bizarre Adventures, to be honest with you. And it's just like so much fun. I laugh my ass off every once in a while. If I have like my least favorite episodes, the one with like Iggy versus that hawk, that one I found boring. I didn't really care. There's like an episode that's kind of wasted where like Suzuki goes to Japan from New York, and while there, instead of like going directly, because she had like an inkling that something wrong with Holly, because no one wanted to tell her anything, but she knew she's not an idiot despite the appearance. But she goes there and starts filming random things and people in Japan, like she for some reason feel like she hasn't been there before, but it's like she videotaping everything. And it's like, you didn't have to waste. And then the butler's having like an internal crisis of like coming clean about what's really going on to spare Suzuki's feelings and make sure she doesn't worry to death over her daughter kind of situation. But it's like, that could have been trimmed down a little bit. There was an episode that probably hate even more so. Oh no, the Hawk and versus Iggy thing, I didn't like at all. But I think tied to my least favorite is the one where it's like this weirdo dude who has the stand power to turn people into like their younger selves. Like Polarev turned into like a 8-year-old, and then someone who's trying to help him, she turned her into like he turned her into like a baby. Until like he was eventually defeated, where the Stand lost his grip on his powers. But it wasn't very interesting. But it was kind of like sadistic too, to where you just allowed that to happen. Not as sadistic as like seen Dio turn like a woman into a vampire and having her eat her own baby. It's certain anime has some fucked up shit. Honestly, even like something like Pokemon, where you have like little ghost types like a balloon, Drifloon, who in Pokemon lore pretends to be like a normal balloon to entice little kids to grab it so it can carry them away. It's fucked up. But honestly, it's a pretty Stardust Crusaders is pretty damn good. Highly recommend. But if you're a JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, of course you have to watch from the. I don't know if it's like a must, but to get like understanding the grudge they have against Dio and like this familial legacy and battle against this major enemy to this family, you gotta start from way the beginning to get the understanding of this season. So anyway, what's the next thing? I kind of want to do Duel Masters, because as my next TV show, like Duel Masters and Beyblade and Mega Man Anti-War, I really want to do, but I want to try to fit in some time for like, I think I want to do Duel Masters first, maybe, because is it how much like episodes in Duel Masters? Because honestly, I want to start eventually, because I'm going through like well, I think I could fit in Duel Masters because I want to like finish up my Keanu Reeves film movie reviews that I want to do for like a month long thing. Still got like I did recently. You can check it out. My review for shoot, what did I do? Blanking on everything. My mind just like struggling. Constantine and Devil's Advocate that I did recently, so you can definitely check that out. But Duel Masters. Yeah, I think there's like 26 episodes here. Let me check something. Uh, yeah, I'm gonna need to do like yeah, because I already remember like the uh first two seasons. Honestly. Uh, yeah, I'm trying to make sure I look at these episodes just to make sure that I'm recalling certain images right from my childhood. Uh, so yeah, I think I easily can do like at least the first season of Duel Masters next. That will be my next TV show to review, because it'd be fun to get return back to certain shows that I just like with Jackie Chan Adventures. I did the 5 season uh TV show reviews of those. You can check that out. My thoughts on that show. But yeah, I think I'll do Duel Masters season 1. I think after that I'll start with some, because I want to do like a before May the 4th. I want to go through all the Star Wars stuff from episode 1 to 8, and then include like also the TV shows like Rebels and Clone Wars. And I think Resistance is part of that. And then The Mandalorian and Book of Boba Fett, that's all in there. So that's gonna be like sometime too. So I'm gonna do Duel Master season 1. Then after that, I'm gonna get right into like some Star Wars. By that point, I'll figure I'll be done with like at least a handful of carefully chosen Keanu Reeves films that I want to do, and then move into Star Wars. Just stick with like Star Wars through and through. But anyway, leave a comment below. Let me know what you think of Stardust Crusaders. Is your favorite arc out the entire series? Don't forget to leave a like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff to Talkative Carl. Follow me in the links in the description. And I will see you guys next time. Peace.